After 5 years of relentless coding, sleepless nights, and more energy drinks than I could count, my big break finally came. I sold my startup to a major tech company for a hefty sum. The first thing I did was buy myself a piece of peace. A 2-acre property in Pine Ridge Estates, complete with a 40-foot infinity pool overlooking a landscape of rolling green hills. For 2 blissful weeks, it was everything I had dreamed of: sunrise laps in the pool, quiet programming sessions, and the soft rustling of pines at night. Then one Thursday morning at 6 a.m., the calm shattered. Sirens screamed down my street. Police pounded on my front door. Apparently, a 911 call had come in from Eric, the 21-year-old son of the neighborhood HOA president, reporting that someone was drowning in my pool. When the officers arrived, they found Eric trying to break into my pool gate, shouting about how he had swimming rights. But one simple question from a cop, "Do you live here?" sparked a chain of events none of us could have predicted. Eric's reply left them stunned, and what followed led to the unraveling of something far more sinister. It all began a few days earlier, during a lazy Monday morning. I was enjoying my coffee by the pool when I noticed something odd. The lounge chairs were out of place, and the pool deck was wet, even though there had been no rain. Brushing it off at first, I grew concerned when I found a used condom floating in the skimmer basket. A wave of disgust hit me. I started checking the rest of the property. In the trash were 6 empty White Claw cans. I don't even drink. Cigarette butts littered the patio. Behind a planter, dried vomit. Someone had thrown a party here. And judging by the mess, it wasn't a small gathering. My gates had been locked the entire time. I had always been obsessed with security, so how had anyone even gotten in? I pulled up footage from the old security camera near the front gate. Though outdated and low quality, what I saw was unmistakable. Around 11 p.m. on Saturday night, 3 cars pulled up. Out spilled a crowd, maybe 20 or 30 young people. At the front of the pack was Eric, collecting money, $150 per person, before unlocking the gate and letting them in. The video showed everything. People drinking heavily, blasting music, hooking up on my deck. Someone threw up in the pool. Another tossed cans into the flower beds. At the end of the night, Eric stood off to the side, counting a thick wad of cash. This wasn't just kids trespassing. It was a full-blown side hustle. My house had become a nightclub, and I was the unwilling host. That same day, I went to the hardware store and bought a high-end smart lock with a built-in HD camera. I installed it on the pool gate, added a bold "No Trespassing" sign, and linked the system to my phone for real-time alerts. I figured that would end things. I was wrong. Not 2 hours later, someone began banging furiously on my front door. It was Linda, Eric's mother, and the Pine Ridge HOA president. Dressed like she was heading to a courtroom battle, she waved a violation notice in my face and barked, "What is this hideous gadget on your gate?" She cited some obscure HOA bylaw about aesthetic uniformity, and demanded I remove it within 48 hours or face a $500 daily fine. I tried to explain what had been happening: parties, trespassing, vandalism, but she wasn't interested. "Security concerns must be approved by the board," she snapped before strutting off. As I stood there stunned, my neighbor George, a kind, retired widower, walked up with a loaf of zucchini bread and muttered, "Welcome to Linda's little kingdom." Over coffee, he gave me the full scoop. Linda and her ex-husband had been big names in real estate until one of their major projects collapsed. Now divorced and bankrupt, she ruled the HOA with an iron fist. Eric? A college dropout with a history of theft. According to George, my pool had been their side hustle for years. The previous owner was rarely around, and Eric's ex-girlfriend used to work for the property management firm, which meant she likely still had access. I was floored. This was deeper than I thought. Then early Thursday morning, just before sunrise, I got a phone notification: movement at the pool gate. I opened the camera feed. There was Eric, flanked by 3 friends, pool bags slung over their shoulders. He tugged at the smart lock and yelled, "My mom said this would be gone." A girl chimed in, whining about having promised someone a photo shoot. Then, staring straight into the camera, Eric pulled out his phone and called 911. "There's someone drowning in the pool," he shouted. "Please, he's sinking, help us." "The gate's locked." Then he ended the call and high-fived his buddy. Within minutes, 2 police cruisers screeched to a halt in my driveway. One officer said, "We got a report of a drowning. Bolt cutters ready." I stayed calm. "There's nobody in the pool," I said. "But I can show you exactly who made the call." Inside, I played the footage for them. Eric faking panic, his friends milling around, the empty pool behind him. The officers were dead silent as they watched. One of them turned to Eric outside and asked, "Did you actually see someone drowning?" Eric hesitated. "Maybe a shadow," he mumbled. "Or the app glitched." Just then, Linda's SUV screeched into my driveway. She jumped out, demanding to know why her son was being harassed. "He was just trying to save someone's life," she protested. The officer showed her the video. I saw her anger dissolve into fear. "He's under a lot of pressure," she muttered, trying to defend him. The officer issued a formal warning for filing a false police report, and let me know I had every right to press charges if it happened again. Eric and his friends scattered. Linda stood there, suddenly quiet. And just like that, their little empire crumbled, exposed by a $200 smart lock and a few lines of code. Linda's fury erupted the moment she saw Eric. She grabbed him, eyes blazing, then turned her glare on me. "You'll regret this," she hissed. This place was her kingdom. At least it was before I moved in. The next morning at dawn, police sirens shattered my peace. Apparently, someone had lodged a noise complaint over my early swim. The officers were apologetic but firm. They had to follow up. I didn't need to guess who called. Linda stood in her window, wearing a smirk like a crown. By midday, she was outside, tape measure in hand, scrutinizing my front yard. Soon, a post appeared on the HOA social feed. My grass was over the 3-inch limit. Mine was 3.5. That post sparked a flurry of comments. Neighbors I'd never spoken to suddenly became lawn rule enforcers. On the 4th day, it escalated. A law firm sent me a cease and desist. I was being accused of defaming Eric and causing Linda emotional trauma. They demanded $50,000. Or more if I didn't remove the security lock on my gate and issue a public apology. I sat beside my pool, once my sanctuary, now a battlefield. Was this really worth it? That's when George showed up, holding out coffee. "Know why I'm helping?" he asked, grimacing. "Linda made me teach her how to hold her liquor." He handed me his phone, open to an Instagram page, Elite Oasis Pool. It had over 5,000 followers. Every photo was unmistakably taken at my pool, my home, advertising events. $50 for nighttime swims, $75 for sunset sessions, $200 for influencer shoots. The kicker? Each post tagged my address. I dove into investigation mode. I downloaded 847 posts and matched them with security footage. What I found was staggering. They'd been running a full-blown, illegal pool club right under my nose. Weekly profits between $3,500 and $4,000. Easily over $200,000 a year, untaxed. Linda took cash each night. Eric sold overpriced alcohol. In video clips, she bragged about bribing local authorities and handling complaints. I found their LLC, O&E events, completely unregistered and unlicensed. But it got darker. 3 teenagers had ended up in the ER after these parties. One nearly died. One crashed a car. A recent video sealed their fate. Linda conspiring to rewrite HOA rules and take over other neighbors' amenities. "A few violations and they'll move out," she said smugly. That's when I knew. I'd expose them publicly, at the upcoming HOA meeting. Linda wouldn't control that room. I created a 15-slide presentation with evidence, video clips, profit spreadsheets, screenshots, and database entries. George agreed to record everything. Linda, believing I'd come to complain about trespassing, approved my speaking slot with a fake smile. The 3 days before the meeting were brutal. She tried to preempt me, pushing for an emergency vote to fine me $5,000 for installing security cameras. "She's panicking," George chuckled. "Stick to the plan." The night of the meeting, the community center overflowed. 50 residents in a space meant for 30. Linda, in full power attire, greeted her allies. At 7:25, I entered with my laptop. Linda wasted no time. She motioned to find me from my hostile cameras. Motion carries, she chirped after 47 hands went up. Only George and 2 others abstained. Then it was my turn. I'm here to talk about safety, I said, plugging in my laptop. I began with innocent footage, my clean pool trash bins. Then I showed clips of what really happened. Drunken teenagers, couples making out on my deck, Eric collecting entry fees. Murmurs filled the room. Parents gasped. "That's my daughter," one woman shouted. Then I revealed the Elite Oasis Instagram. Thousands of followers. Publicly tagged posts. Their revenue? Over $600,000 across 3 years. Never reported, never licensed. A heavy silence fell. I played a clip of Linda boasting. "I take 80%, I handle the cops." Then I showed L&E events in the state database, non-existent legally. No taxes. No permits. Just risk and recklessness. One mother stood up, trembling. "My daughter's in the ICU from that party," she said. $47,000 in hospital bills. Vodka sold by Eric. Chaos broke loose. Another man shouted his son was in rehab. Linda screamed, "Fake. That's all fake." But no one listened. George filmed everything as Chad tried to flee, but furious parents blocked him. I delivered the final blow. "I already submitted everything to the IRS, the police, and the state," I said. 3 hours ago. Right on cue, 2 IRS agents and police officers walked in. "Linda Marshall?" an agent asked. She bolted, tripped, and face planted on the carpet. Her mascara streaked like a mask as she shrieked, "I want my lawyer," while being handcuffed. Chad cried out, "Mom, help!" But she didn't even glance at him as they dragged her out. The crowd clapped. The outcast had become the hero. News outlets ran with it. HOA president ran underground party ring. Linda's mugshot went viral. She'd embezzled $50,000 from HOA funds. 8 families sued. The ICU girl's parents demanded $2 million. Linda got 5 years in prison. Eric received 300 hours of court-mandated youth rehab service. Their house went into foreclosure. Chad ended up flipping burgers to meet court fines. A new HOA president was elected. He offered me $10,000 in damages. I used it to install AI-powered surveillance and a warning sign. Private property. Eric Marshall detected equals police alert. When Eric tested it a week later, the alarms triggered. He took off barefoot. Now I swim in peace. Last week, I was elected HOA president, won with 98% of the vote. George texted me, "Your cameras didn't just guard your pool. They brought down a tyrant." Linda had demanded that lock be gone within 48 hours. Now she's locked away for 5 years. Eric still circles the block, 52 meters away, but if he steps closer, the sirens are waiting. Should I post the footage of his last failed approach? Let me know.